It was supposed to be a simple celebration. My daughter Emily's anniversary, a time to celebrate her and her husband Chris. The house was filled with family, laughter, and warmth. It felt perfect. But then, out of nowhere, Chris pulled me aside, away from everyone. He looked at me, his face serious, and said, "She never told you the truth." I didn't panic. I simply smiled and said, "I know, but does she know what I did?" At that moment, everything shifted. I had no idea what was about to come next, but I knew something was about to unravel. The truth was about to come out, and I wasn't sure who would walk away from it unscathed. My name is Clara Matthews, and I'm a mother, a teacher, and someone who's always tried to do the right thing for my family. I've spent most of my life trying to keep things in order, trying to make sure my daughter Emily had everything she needed. I've watched her grow into an incredible woman. She's 30 now, happily married to Chris, or at least, that's how it seemed on the outside. I've always had this protective instinct with Emily. I wanted to shield her from all the pain and disappointments life can bring. But as much as I tried to be there for her, I realized over time that she kept things from me. Small things, at first. An argument here or there with Chris. Some work stress. But nothing that ever seemed to be more than the usual bumps in a marriage. So, when Emily and Chris invited the family over for their anniversary dinner, I was excited. It was supposed to be a night of celebration. I made sure to cook Emily's favorite dishes, put on my best smile, and helped with the last-minute preparation. I was determined to make it a memorable night for them both. Everything seemed fine when I walked into the living room. The house was filled with the usual chatter and laughter. Chris was talking to some of the family members in the corner, and Emily was in the kitchen, looking radiant as always. From the outside, everything looked perfect. They looked perfect. But then, during the celebration, Chris pulled me aside. There was something different about his face, something in his eyes that told me something was off. "Clara, there's something you need to know," he said quietly. It was at that moment I realized there was something bigger happening. It wasn't just about the anniversary dinner or a family celebration. Chris wasn't just talking about Emily. He was talking about something I hadn't seen coming, something neither of us had prepared for. I listened closely as Chris dropped the bombshell. "She never told you the truth." I didn't know what to say at first. What truth? I thought I knew everything about Emily, but now, my mind raced with questions I wasn't ready to answer. And yet, instead of panicking, I smiled. It was as if some part of me already knew this day was coming. I looked Chris in the eye and replied, "I know, but does she know what I did?" Everything went quiet for a moment, and I could feel the weight of his words and mine hanging in the air between us. What was going on behind closed doors? What had I missed? And more importantly, what had I been hiding all this time? The moment Chris said, "She never told you the truth," everything inside me froze. It was like time stopped for just a second, and I was stuck, trying to make sense of what he meant. Chris, the man I thought I knew well, had always been charming, always polite, and seemed to be the perfect husband for Emily. He was everything I could have hoped for in a son-in-law. So, to hear him say those words left me unsettled, confused, and honestly, scared. I tried to keep my composure, but the words gnawed at me. What truth? What could my daughter, the person I'd known all her life, be hiding? Was it something about their marriage? Something I didn't know? My mind raced with possibilities, but I stayed quiet, waiting for him to explain. Chris glanced around the room, making sure no one else was paying attention to us. The laughter from the guests seemed so distant now, like a faint noise coming from another world. All I could hear was the pounding of my own heartbeat, my pulse quickening with each passing second. "Clara," he said quietly, his voice lowering as if he was sharing a secret. "Emily, she's been keeping things from you, from all of us. There are things about her past, about our relationship, that she's never told you." I felt a sharp pang in my chest, a kind of betrayal I couldn't quite put into words. This wasn't just a casual conversation anymore. It felt like Chris was pulling back the curtain on something I hadn't seen coming. How could Emily, my own daughter, keep something so significant from me? I had always been there for her, through the good times, the bad, the highs, and the lows. We had always been close, or so I thought. Why didn't she trust me with the truth? "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice shaky despite my best efforts to sound calm. Chris hesitated for a moment before answering. Emily isn't who you think she is. She's hiding a lot of pain, things that go deeper than what she's let on. I think you need to know, Clara. She's been living in fear, and I don't know how much longer she can keep pretending everything's fine. The word fear hit me like a punch to the gut. My mind immediately flashed back to the moments I'd seen Emily looking distant, disconnected, and withdrawn. But I had chalked it up to stress or work. Normal things people go through. I had no idea there was something darker lurking beneath the surface. Why are you telling me this now? I asked, still struggling to process what he was saying. Why didn't Emily come to me? Chris shifted uncomfortably, glancing at the door as if worried someone might overhear. Because she doesn't know how to tell you. She's been trying to protect you, protect us. She's always been afraid of disappointing you. I was stunned. Afraid of disappointing me? My own daughter was carrying this weight alone because she thought I would be disappointed in her? I couldn't wrap my head around it. Chris sighed, rubbing his forehead. I know you've always been close, but there's more to their marriage than you realize. It's not all roses, like it seems. He paused, his voice dropping again. She's been keeping a secret about her past, and it's come back to haunt her. I think she's starting to crack under the pressure. I felt a lump form in my throat. What kind of secret could Emily be hiding? She was always so open with me, always sharing her heart and her struggles, or so I thought. My mind went in a million directions. Was there something in her past she was ashamed of? Was it something with Chris? Was it something I missed? Clara, Chris continued, breaking me out of my thoughts. I'm not trying to tear you apart. I can't watch her suffer like this anymore. I know she's been trying to protect you, but I can't stand to see her hiding it all. It's tearing her apart inside. I swallowed hard. I wanted to comfort him, tell him it was okay, but I didn't know what was okay anymore. The pieces were slowly starting to fall into place, but the picture they were forming was one I wasn't ready to face. As I stood there, trying to digest what he had just shared with, another thought crept into my mind. If Emily had been hiding something so significant from me, what else had I missed? What else was she keeping from me? And what was I hiding from her was a secret, one I had kept buried for years, something I never told anyone, something that, if Emily found out, could shatter everything. It wasn't just about her anymore, it was about me too. As the realization sank in, I found myself standing at a crossroad. I could feel the weight of all the unsaid words pressing down on me, and I knew that this conversation with Chris was only the beginning. It wasn't just about uncovering Emily's truth anymore. It was about uncovering, and as much as I wanted to stay in that I knew I had to face the hard truths, no matter how painful. I need to talk to Emily, I said almost to myself. My heart was pounding, and I wasn't sure what I was walking, but I couldn't ignore what Chris had just told me. I had to hear the truth from Emily herself. Chris gave me a somber nod. Be gentle with her. She's not ready to face it all. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of what was about to unfold. What had Emily been hiding? And more importantly, what had I been hiding from her? The weight of everything Chris had said hung heavily as I stood there, my mind racing with a million thoughts. My instincts told me that confronting Emily was the only way forward, but something inside me also knew that this wouldn't be an easy conversation. I had no idea what I was walking into, but the questions were too many, and the silence between us too heavy to ignore any longer. As I stood in the hallway, I felt the strong, familiar pull of maternal love. I wanted to protect her, to shield her from the pain and confusion I felt in my heart. But as much as I loved Emily, I realized that I couldn't protect her from everything, especially not from herself. If there was something more, something hidden beneath the surface of our relationship that I didn't know, it was time to face it. The house was still filled with the laughter of guests, a stark contrast to the storm raging inside me. Emily had always been the heart of our family gatherings, the bright, shining presence that made everything feel like home. But now, I couldn't ignore the nagging feeling that she wasn't as happy as I had believed. I had to ask the tough questions, no matter how much it hurt both of us. I glanced over at the celebration, at the smiles that now seemed forced. Chris had left me with so many unsettling thoughts that I couldn't just go back to pretending everything was fine. As I made my way through the kitchen, I saw Emily standing by the counter, talking to her aunt. She looked beautiful, radiant, but her eyes betrayed her. There was a distant look in them, one I had seen before, but never fully understood until now. She was lost in thought, as if she was somewhere far away from the present moment. I stood there for a few seconds, watching her. I wanted to just run to her, wrap her up in a hug, and tell her that everything would be okay. But the truth was, I had to confront her first. I had to know what was going on behind her smile, what was hidden in the silence between us. I took a deep breath and walked over to her, my heart pounding in my chest. She turned as I approached, her face lighting up with the same smile that had always made me feel like everything was right with the world. But there was something different about it now, a kind of forced cheerfulness that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Hey, sweetheart," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Can we talk for a minute?" Her smile faltered for a brief moment, but she quickly recovered. "Of course, Mom. What's up?" I took her hand and led her to the quieter part of the house, away from the noise of the guests. My heart was racing, but I knew I had to get this over with. I couldn't leave things unsaid any longer. "Emily, I need to ask you something," I began, my voice softer now. "Chris, he told me something tonight. He said that you've been hiding something from me, that there's something about your marriage, about your past, that you've kept from me." She stiffened slightly at the mention of Chris's name, and I immediately knew that the conversation I was about to have was going to be harder than I imagined. Emily had never been good at hiding things. From me, at least not completely. But whatever Chris had revealed had clearly unsettled her. She looked away, taking a deep breath before finally meeting my gaze. "Mom, she started, but the words seemed to catch in her throat. Her eyes looked vulnerable, almost guilty. The walls she had built up around herself were coming down, but only just. I could tell she was struggling to keep it together. "Emily, you can tell me anything," I said, my voice cracking a little. "I know you've been going through something. I just want to understand. Why didn't you come to me sooner?" She shook her head, her eyes welling up with tears. "I didn't want to disappoint you. I didn't want you to think less of me. I thought I could handle it. I thought I could fix everything on my own, but I couldn't. And now I don't know what to do." I felt a rush of emotion flood through me. Disappoint me? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. All these years, I had thought I was the one protecting her, keeping her safe from the world. But now, it was clear. Emily had been carrying this burden all on her own, thinking she was shielding me from it. "You could never disappoint me," I said softly, reaching out to touch her. "But you don't have to go through this alone. You don't have to protect me from your struggle. I'm your mother. I'm always here for you." She looked up at me, her eyes searching mine for something, perhaps reassurance or forgiveness. But I could see the fear in her eyes, the fear of opening up and letting me in on the truth she had kept locked away for so long. "It's not just about me, Mom," she said, her voice shaking. "It's about Chris, about us. There's so much he doesn't know. There's so much I've never told him, and I don't know how to fix it. I don't know if I can." My heart ached for her. This wasn't just about a small argument or a misunderstanding. It was something deeper. She had been carrying this weight, not just for months, but for years. And now, it was coming to the surface, ready to be confronted. I took a step closer, wrapping my arms around her in a tight hug. "We'll figure this out together," I whispered, my voice full of emotion. "Whatever it is, you don't have to go through it alone anymore." She clung to me for a moment, her body trembling with the release of emotions she had kept inside for far too long. And in that moment, I knew that things were never going to be the same. But I also knew that, no matter what came next, we would face it together. The truth was out there now, and it was time for both of us to finally deal with it, no matter how difficult or painful it might be. As I held Emily in my arms, I could feel the weight of everything that had been building up between us, like a dam about to burst. For years, I had been her protector, the one she could turn to, the one who was always there to guide her. But now, standing there in that moment, I realized that perhaps I had been too focused on protecting her from the world, and not enough on understanding what she was hiding from me. It was time for both of us to face the truth, no matter how difficult or painful it was. Emily pulled back slightly, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand, still trying to keep it together. Her face was pale, and I could see the rawness in her expression, the deep emotional strain that she had been carrying alone for far too long. Her body language spoke volumes. It wasn't just a marriage that was falling apart. It was everything. The years of silence, of secrets and unspoken pain. I didn't think I could say it out loud, Emily whispered, her voice trembling. But I have to. I have to tell you everything, Mom. I didn't just keep things from Chris. I kept things from you. There are parts of my past, parts of my life that I've buried so deep, I thought I could forget them. But I can't anymore. I've been living in a lie for too long, and I can't keep pretending. I felt a lump form in my throat. I had no idea where this was going, but the urgency in her voice, the desperation, told me that whatever she was about to reveal would change everything. There was no going back from this moment, and I could feel the heaviness in the air between us. Emily, I said softly, my hand gently cupping her face. You can tell me anything. You don't have to hide from me. I'm here. I'm always going to be here. She took a deep breath and nodded, gathering her thoughts, but it was clear she was struggling to find the right words. It's not just about us, Mom, she began, the weight of her next words hanging between us. Before Chris, there was someone else, someone I loved, someone I thought I could trust, but it ended badly. I never told you about him. You never knew because I was too ashamed. He wasn't a good person, Mom. He manipulated me, used me, and I let it happen. I stood frozen, her words sinking in. The quiet shock that filled me made it hard to breathe. My mind scrambled to piece together the details, but nothing made sense. Emily had always been so open with me, so willing to share the ups and downs of her life. Yet this part of her past had been hidden, shrouded in silence. And now, all of a sudden, it was surfacing, unraveling everything I thought I knew. I didn't want you to know, she continued, tears streaming down her face. I was scared that if you knew, you'd hate me. I felt so stupid, so weak for letting him control me. And when I met Chris, I thought I could put it all behind me, start fresh. But I never told anyone how much damage he did to me, how he scarred me emotionally. And now, it's all coming back. The realization hit me like a tidal wave. My daughter had been through something so painful, so traumatized, and I hadn't known. She had kept it buried for so long, convinced that I would never understand. Or, worse, that I would judge her. My heart broke for her. She had been carrying this burden, thinking she had to protect me from it, thinking that I would see her differently if I knew the truth. You don't have to be ashamed, Emily, I said, my voice steady but filled with emotion. You're not weak. You were hurt, and you didn't know how to deal with it. You don't need to hide anymore. I'm here for you, and I always will be. Emily shook her head, still overwhelmed. But it's not just about him, Mom. It's about everything since. It's about how I've been so closed off, how I've pushed Chris away, even when I knew he was trying to help me. I've been scared. I've been scared of repeating the same mistakes, of trusting the wrong person again. I've been scared of letting anyone get too close, even the people who love me the most. I felt a pang of guilt. I had always prided myself on being there for Emily, always ready to help her through whatever life threw at her. But now I saw that I had missed something crucial. Emily hadn't just been struggling with her marriage. She had been struggling with herself, with the scars of her past that she thought she could bury. I should have seen the signs, should have realized that her silence was not indifference, but fear. And Chris? I asked softly, afraid of what the answer might be. I love him, she replied, her voice full of regret. But I pushed him away. I didn't want him to see the real me, the broken me. I thought if I kept pretending everything was fine, it would all just go away. But it hasn't. It's only made things worse. I took a deep breath, processing everything. I could feel the weight of Emily's pain, and my heart ached for her. She had been carrying this secret for so long, alone and afraid. But now, it was out in the open, and the only thing left to do was help her rebuild. I'm so sorry, Emily, I said, tears welling up in my eyes. I had no idea. I should have known, should have been there for you more. But I'm here now, and we're going to fix this, together. She looked at me, her eyes filled with relief but also uncertainty. Do you think Chris will still love me after everything? After all the lies? I took her hands in mine, squeezing them gently. Of course he will. He loves you, Emily. But you have to be honest with him, with yourself. The truth will set you free. It's not easy, but it's the only way to heal. For the first time in a long time, I saw a glimmer of hope in Emily's eyes. She didn't have all the answers, and neither did I. But we had taken the first step, and that was everything. The truth, no matter how painful, had finally come to the surface. And now, we could both begin to heal, together. The days following my conversation with Emily felt like a blur. We spent hours talking, sometimes through tears, sometimes in silence, but always with the heavy understanding that things had shifted. That night, after I reassured Emily that we would face this together, I had hoped everything would magically fall into place. But life doesn't work that way. The hard truth of our lives, the secrets, the pain, doesn't disappear overnight. Still, there was a quiet sense of relief between us. Emily had finally opened up, and I had finally understood the depth of the hurt she had been carrying alone. And in doing so, something between us began to heal. But that healing wasn't instant. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't like flipping a switch. I could see the struggle in Emily as she tried to reconcile her past with her present. She wasn't just working through the trauma of her previous relationship with Chris. She was learning to trust herself again. She had been so afraid to be vulnerable, afraid of letting anyone see the cracks in her armor. But now, with the truth out in the open, she could see that those cracks weren't something to hide. They were part of who she was, and they didn't make her any less worthy of love. I also realized that as much as Emily had been hiding from me, I had been hiding from her. For years, there had been something buried deep inside me that I had never spoken of, something that, if she knew, might shake the foundation of our relationship. It wasn't just about her now, it was about both of us. We had both been holding on to the weight of our secrets, thinking that if we kept them buried, we could protect each other. But we were wrong. The days after the anniversary were filled with difficult but necessary conversations. Chris and Emily sat down together, and Emily bravely told him everything about her past, the emotional scars she had been carrying, and the fears she had been too afraid to share. It wasn't easy, and it didn't solve everything right away, but it was a step toward healing. I could see the love Chris had for her in the way he listened, the way he held her hand as she poured her heart out. He didn't get angry or upset. Instead, he promised to work with her, to help her rebuild the trust that had been broken, not just between them, but with herself. It was painful, but it was also the start of a new chapter. As for me, I couldn't help but reflect on my own choices. For years, I had been so caught up in being the perfect mother, the one who had all the answers, the one who could always be relied upon, that I had ignored the cracks in my own life. There was something I had kept hidden, something from my own past that Emily didn't know about, something that I had never dared to admit to anyone, let alone my own daughter. The truth was, I had been in a similar situation to Emily many years ago. I had been in a toxic relationship myself, one that left me with emotional scars I had never fully addressed. I never told Emily the full story because I was too ashamed of the choices I had made. I thought I was protecting her by keeping my own past a secret, but in reality, I was only distancing myself from the person I needed to be for her, open, honest, and vulnerable. It was clear that the only way Emily and I could move forward was together. Together, not just as mother and daughter, but as two women who had both carried burdens that needed to be shared. I had to tell her my truth, the secret I had kept for so long. I had to show her that it was okay to be imperfect, that healing didn't come from hiding our mistakes, but from facing them head on. One evening, after a long day of talking and processing everything, I sat Emily down and told her my story. I explained how I had been in a relationship that, like hers, started with love, but quickly turned toxic. I told her how I had been manipulated, how I had stayed in that relationship longer than I should have, too afraid to leave because I thought I had no other choice. I told her how I had eventually found the strength to walk away, but how the scars it left still lingered, even to this day. Emily listened, her eyes wide with surprise, but also with understanding. I could see her processing my words, realizing that maybe, just maybe, the pain she had been carrying wasn't unique to her. We had both lived through something similar, and it had shaped who we were today. I didn't know, Emily said softly when I finished. I didn't know you went through that too. I guess I thought you had it all together. I smiled, though it was bittersweet. I don't have it all together, sweetheart. I just learned how to fake it better than most. We laughed softly, the kind of laugh that eases tension and reminds us that it's okay to not be perfect. That night, I realized how much Emily and I had in common. We both had scars, emotional and physical, and we both needed to heal. The truth had been painful to confront, but it was also freeing. We were no longer living in the shadow of secrets and half-truths. Instead, we were standing in the light, no longer afraid to show our vulnerabilities. In the days that followed, I could see the change in Emily. She was no longer hiding behind walls of silence. She was speaking up, asking for help when she needed it, and beginning to rebuild her life with Chris. And for me, I realized that I could finally let go of the shame I had been carrying for so long. I had been afraid of disappointing her, of showing her my flaws, but now I knew that my imperfections didn't make me any less of a mother. They made me human. Looking back on it all, I realized that the most important lesson I learned was that we can't protect the people we love by keeping secrets from them. It's through honesty, vulnerability, and facing the truth, no matter how painful, that we can truly heal. I'm proud of Emily for finding the courage to share her story, and I'm grateful that, in doing so, she gave me the chance to share mine. Together, we can face whatever comes next, stronger, wiser, and more connected than ever before.